So no matter what Final Fantasy game is your favorite, there's something for you in this Final Fantasy Magic the Gathering set, and you are about to watch one of the pre-con reviews here on the MTG Thoughtcast. Now, this is one of 4 for the series. If you want to watch all 4 of our pre-con reviews unedited, you can click the link somewhere over on the screen here that my brother John has provided. And if not, if you just want to watch the one that you clicked on, we'll see you there in 2 seconds.
So we break away from the classic pixel days from the Super Nintendo. Have you maybe heard of this little hidden gem of a game possibly called Final Fantasy VII?
I've heard it's the best in the series. And I know that alone might be a controversial statement, but from the friends of mine who play Final Fantasy have said that 7 is, at the very least, it's a good starting point in the series.
I know what a cloud is. I know. Hey. Shocker. The boomer in video games actually understands a character. Yes. But yeah, so let's move on to the Final Fantasy VII deck, which is called Limit Break. This is a Naya equipment themed deck with a sort of like sub-focus kind of playing into the joke of Final Fantasy VII. It cares a lot about high power creatures and specifically if they are power 7 or greater. You see what they did there? Clever.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So
just rewarding you for already having a dominant board.
Are you winning? You get to win even harder.
Right. Limit break. You're breaking the limits on how much you can win.
I think that's a game mechanic in the game. I'm sorry, gang.
So.
I know I'm a disappointment when it comes to actually knowing what a Final Fantasy is, but I can talk Magic to you, and let me tell you about the Magic cards that come in this Magic collection. Starting with our commander, which is Cloud X Soldier, and exclamation. Soldier's a military branch in the game, supposedly. Yeah. It's an acronym for whatever. 2 red, green, and a white legendary creature, human soldier mercenary. He starts as a 4/4 with haste. And when he enters, attach up to 1 target equipment you control to him. Whenever Cloud attacks, you draw a card for each equipped attacking creature you control. Then, if Cloud has power 7 or greater, you create 2 treasure tokens.
Lovely. That's a lot of good text on there.
Yeah, easy. So the most important thing there to note is that it's not drawing a card for each equipment you control. It's drawing a card for each equipped creature. So if
attacking
Cloud...
creature.
Yeah, if Cloud's your only attacker, you'll only draw 1 card. But that is always a guaranteed card as long as he's equipped. With haste as well, that auto-attaches stuff to him as well. One of the coolest things that you can do with equipment is cheating the cost that it takes to send it over attached to something else, right? You know, like this deck wants you to do the stupid thing with Colossus Hammer. It comes in the deck here. So imagine that. You get
14.
Oh,
but he loses flying.
Oh, he wasn't flying anyway, so whatever. So, you know what I mean? So, obviously what Cloud wants you to do is you want to get an equipment down some point before the turn 5 that he would come down, and preferably something that would boost up his power. You can do that with some of the equipment that comes in this deck, but not all of it. So that's where the rest of the support pieces in this deck come into play, whereas if the equipment themselves are not boosting up the power higher, other game pieces like the other legendary creatures and some of the artifacts and stuff like that, they can help increase the power as well. But as a card itself, right, just rewarding, like you said, rewarding you for having the biggest thing down in play, you get a card, you get a fast creature coming in immediately that can sometimes also make you treasures, which is great. It lets you keep going into your other big creatures as well. But a good incentive to be able to go wide, then, is your other commander that comes in the deck, Tifa, a martial artist. She's 1 red, green, and a white legendary creature, a human monk. It's a 4/4 with melee. Melee means that this creature gets +1/+1 until end of turn for each opponent you attacked this combat. So if Tifa goes at a single opponent, she gets +1/+1. If you have her plus 2 other creatures going at your other 2 opponents, the creature with melee will get a total of +3/+3. So
hey, that's 7.
Yeah, that's important for her next line here. That whenever 1 or more creatures you control with power 7 or greater deal combat damage to a player, untap all creatures you control. If it's the first combat phase of the turn, there is an additional combat phase after this phase.
Broken.
So just
this is nuts.
So just like Cloud rewards you for getting up to that 7 total power, of which, very interestingly, she can do naturally by herself, as long as you've got herself and 2 other attackers going at 2 other opponents. Her own melee will get her up to the 7 power for the first combat. And then what happens then when you go swinging into your next combat? Melee will happen again because you're attacking again. You're declaring attackers in your next combat phase. So at the very minimum, you'll get like Tifa to be able to go in at least twice with melee if you can get her power up to 7, either through the melee trigger or, like we have talked about, the other equipment and such that comes in this deck. Diving into our collection of reprints in here is, like I said, we've got a variety of stuff that cares about getting the power up on these particular attacking creatures, and equipment-based cards as well. So like some notable, really, really high ones in here is stuff like Darksteel Plate, is just as sort of like a baseline. This is your equipment that is going to grant indestructible to whatever you have equipped onto that. We've got other really good protection stuff in here, like Champion's Helm, that is also protection and gives a power boost as well, power and toughness. I had mentioned Colossus Hammer. That's a stupid one to swing right down onto Cloud as soon as he comes down. Just an immediate 14/14.
Yeah.
Very, very stupid. That one is. There's a fun equipment stealing creature who hasn't been reprinted yet before, Armory Automaton. The 3-mana 2/2 artifact construct that when it enters or attacks, you may attach any number of target equipment to it.
Oh, it just cheats all of them.
Yeah, not only does it cheat the ones that you have, it can steal from opponents as well.
Oh.
You attach any equipment. Now, you don't gain control of them, but for a turn, he can just yoink any relevant equipment that are down. That one's very fun, very fun. Hero's Blade comes in here. It's a very standard one when it comes to like legendary creatures going into combat, just auto attaches itself. So more stuff to just automatically swing right down onto Cloud as he comes down into play. Real stupid, real stupid.
That Hero's Blade too.
Yeah, very cool, very cool. Some other good evasion ones is Trailblazer's Boots is in here too. It gives a non-basic land walk on a 2-mana equipment that equips for 2. So as you had talked about, that these decks are filled out with a variety of really, really fresh non-basic lands. This is going to make Cloud just be able to sneak in, or Tifa, I suppose, either one of them, get both of them in for combat damage real fast. Talking about the stuff that is like super notable as far as their price point is concerned, you had mentioned with lands, Firelit Thicket is one of those filtering lands that comes in this deck as well. It's very cool. Not much else outside of that as far as the lands, as far as a high price point is concerned, but it's a good one to have all the same. The other notable, really, really high one is a protection spell called Clever Concealment. Apparently stuck its way up to like over $25 somehow, but
the quote unquote budget to fairies protection.
Yeah. 2 and double white for an instant with Convoke. Convoke means that you can tap any number of creatures and they can help pay for the cost of the spell by either adding 1 or 1 mana of that creature's color. And then any number of target non-land permanents you control phase out. They're treated as though they do not exist, and they phase back in at your next untapped step. Very, very cool. So you can, if you've got the right amount of creatures down in play, you could make this cost reduced pretty really well, or you could even potentially cast it for free if you've got the means of at least 2 white creatures to help you provide the white mana. That's a thing that people forget about when it comes to Convoke, is that the creatures you tap can produce mana equal to whatever its color is. So
super good.
Very, very neat. Just surprise protection out of nowhere you may not have noticed. You've also got some really stupid stuff in here, like Hellkite Tyrant, because you're already going to be doing some artifact-related stuff, so you just need to get in at somebody who has some collection of artifacts, and you might be able to hit that 20 because you've got like your equipment, and Cloud is making treasure, and then there's other artifact creatures that are in here, so it could happen. You never know.
True.
Professional Facebreaker is also here as well,
cool.
kind of capitalizing on that. You want to be hitting multiple people, just like we had talked about with Tifa. Facebaker, Facebreaker,
Race Baker.
Rice Baker. Facebreaker works in a similar manner where if you hit multiple opponents, you're going to be getting multiple treasures off of that. Super cool. We're a big fan of that. I already talked about Darksteel Plate as well. Sword of the Animist is another one of your great equipments that comes in here. Legendary equipment. When the equipped creature attacks, it also gets +1/+1 from the equipment. But when it attacks, you search your library for a basic land, put it on the battlefield tapped. So just ramp anytime you attack. It's very, very cool. I'm a big fan of it.
Yeah. Hey, you're welcome for that one because I just bought a copy of it, so that's why they reprinted it. So you're welcome, guys.
Super cool, super cool. But to go alongside with these reprints of cards, there is a variety of some new cards that are very, very cool. And like we've talked about, we're not going to be going over every single new card that comes in these decks. I just wanted to bring up to your attention some of the really, really interesting ones that I like a lot. And the first one I want to talk about is one of the other legendary creatures that comes in this deck, Vincent, Vengeful Atoner. Is 2 and a red for a legendary creature assassin. He's a 3/3 with menace. Whenever one or more creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, put a +1/+1 counter on Vincent. And then I think that's chains. Chain, is that a flavor word there?
Chaos.
I would say. It's chaos. It looks like chain to me. I'm sorry. I'm kind of reading on small font. I apologize. Chaos. Whenever Vincent deals combat damage to an opponent, it deals that much damage to each other opponent if his power is 7 or greater.
Ooh.
Yeah,
Ooh.
baby. I'm a big fan of there's this all-time classic that I'm a really big fan of called Hydra Omnivore. Is very much like that. You send just this guy in at one person and then everybody receives pain.
Yeah, I mean, it's the inherent problem with playing a Voltron deck is once you take one person out, you're the scariest, and you still have to take 2 other people out. It takes 3 turns to take the board out with a Voltron deck, and something like Vincent just mitigates that.
This is just, again, this is another of the cards that comes in here that is just giving you good rewards for boosting his power up above 7, of which he can do on his own, even without the equipment. And then you start adding, like, Vincent is going to be the one who you want to give the equipment onto that gives him evasion, because he'll naturally be boosting up his power, right? Sure. Cloud is the one who you're going to want to put the equipments on to boost his power. Vincent will want to be able, like with the Trailblazers Blitz that we were talking about as well, right? He's going to naturally get his own +1/+1 counters up to 7. Then you just want to make sure that he's connecting every turn.
Yeah, the menace is nice on him too.
Yeah, the natural menace is good as well, but anything else that you can give him to start getting in the combat damage is going to be very, very helpful.
Fire.
The other new cards I want to talk about in here are actually 2 more of the other new equipment that come in this deck. The first one is the Conformer Shuriken. 2 mana legendary artifact equipment. Equipped creature has, when this creature attacks, tap target creature defending player controls. If that creature has greater power than this creature, put a number of +1/+1 counters on this creature equal to the difference. And then it equips for 2.
Jeez.
Yeah, so twofold of what this is doing here is obviously this is helping you get not just the equipped creature, anything else you have, right? Because like when a creature becomes tapped, it's no longer able to be a blocker anymore. So you're getting some evasion out of this card, but then also you're just taking down anything that is currently bigger than the creature that you're currently swinging with and gaining +1/+1 counters equal to the difference. So like another problem that can happen with combat focused style decks is that if somebody else is outclassing you as far as power and toughness is concerned, you're just not going to be able to start getting your combat damage or your attack triggers in. And that's especially what people like Tifa and Cloud and the Vincent we were just talking about as well. All of those do their things based on connecting through with combat damage. So making sure that they can connect is very, very important to deck strategies like this. And this is a card that'll help you do that.
So dope. This is a really good equipment.
Yeah, it's a really, really good one. But honestly, my favorite is the other new legendary one that comes in here, Wrecking Ball Arm. Because what's the most sane thing to do when you lose your arm in battle? Simply replace it with a weapon.
Thanks, Japan.
I'm a big fan of this. 2 mana legendary equipment. Equipped creature has base power and toughness 7/7 and can't be blocked by creatures with power 2 or less. Equips for 7 or equips a legendary creature for 3.
Roll the credits, man. That's everything the deck wants to do.
Yep. It's dope. I'm a big fan of this, right? Like, this reminds me, like, especially with the equip a legendary creature and equip regular, this reminds me of Blackblade Reforged a little bit.
That equip legendary is very similar.
Yeah, gives a +1/+1. The reason, like, I'm not a huge fan of that card much anymore, just because in these sort of like equipment go fast style decks, you're not gonna be like, those are typically the colors that can't ramp too crazy hard. And while this is a Naya deck, you do have access to some green. You're also going to be, your mana acceleration is going to be coming from in the form of like treasure tokens off of Cloud. So this is a better card to that sort of theming as compared to Blackblade Reforged. Add Blackblade if you want to. It's a very, very cool equipment, don't get me wrong, especially with a deck like this that, like, over half of the new cards are legendary creatures, so I'm sure you could find use for it in here too. But yeah, I don't know. I've made my case before for cards like Almost Perfect, that like the things that modify base power and toughness is, I love these kinds of things because they're compoundable with other effects, right?
Dude, let's talk about equipping this onto Vincent. Like, Vincent puts +1/+1 counters onto himself, and you just put his base power and toughness up to 7/7. Then you get to continue to scale him higher with those +1/+1 counters. It's not like, oh, you move the equipment over and all of a sudden that boost goes away. Like, this is dope.
Precisely.
And it's a wrecking ball arm.
The most sane thing to throw on your arm, you know?
Yes. I love it. I don't care what it is. I'm going to bust him up. That's the flavor text on it.
Oh, yeah? Sick. Dope. That's very, very cool. What would be some, we had just talked about, you could potentially throw like Blackblade Reforged into this deck. What would be some other really cool pieces that I would want in here? There is one standout. Most of my upgrade is going to be changes to the equipment package, because that's especially what Cloud wants to do. He wants to have stuff thrown onto him to get that power up higher so that you're drawing cards and making treasures. There's a variety of ones that I have listed here, but one of my personal favorites that I enjoy, that is it kind of does like what Cloud does to throw an equipment over to himself naturally, while also providing a power toughness boost and evasion, as Maul of the Skyclaves, originally from Zendikar Rising. 2 and a white for an equipment that when it enters the battlefield, attach it to target creature you control, and the equipped creature gets +2/+2, flying, and first strike. And then it also just equips for 2 and double white. This is perfect. This is a great one to put on Cloud. Get him flying, get him first strike, get his power bigger. And notably as well, this will go onto him once he's already down in play. Remember, the auto attach to him only happens when he enters the battlefield. So more equipment like this that can shuffle itself over to him very, very cheap or for free is going to be very, very helpful to make sure that his trigger is going off more frequently. And same for Tifa as well. This one is great for Tifa because she naturally already starts as a 4/4. This will put her right up to a 6/6. Then with flying, that the melee will put her right at a 7/7.
Beautiful.
There you go. Perfect. This one is great twofold. Another really stupid one that I like a lot I play an equipments deck. That's why I kind of wanted to play this. I wanted to talk about this deck in particular as well, because this kind of strategy, this idea is very close and near and dear to me as a Sir Gwen Hero of Ashvale player. Yeah. I love this kind of stuff. Another favorite of mine then is Bloodforged Battle Axe. Okay. It's a single mana equipment. Equipped creature gets +2/+0, and whenever equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, create a token that's a copy of Bloodforged Battle Axe and equips for 2. Dope. Yeah. Amazing. Dope. This works well with Cloud because you can start putting a bunch of these battle axes onto him, and all it takes is like 2 of them to get him up to that 7 power you need. And then same with Tifa, and even stupider with that one as well, because if you gain those extra combats, every single combat is making you a new Bloodforged Battle Axe. Yeah. This then gives you more copies of the same card to do that go wide thing that Cloud wants to do on his first part as well, drawing you a card for each equipped creature you control. So you just get a bunch of copies of this, throw them down on some of your other legendary creatures, and now you can start drawing 3, 4, 5 cards of combat that will then be connecting and making you more battle axes. It's very stupid. I'm a big fan of this one. Very surprisingly, I was very shocked to see that Masterwork of Ingenuity was also not in this deck either. This would be a perfect equipment to throw in here. Maybe not necessarily if you are doing tons of the legendary equipment, But some of these utility ones, like the Battle Axe we were just talking about, or the Lightning Greaves, or the Trailblazer's Boots, or the Darksteel Plate, any of those kinds of things that you would want to have multiple copies of, Masterwork of Ingenuity is a very good piece for that. A single drop artifact equipment that you can have it enter the battlefield as a copy of any equipment on the battlefield.
Yep, easy.
Just is what it is. Do you have a favorite equipment in play? Now you have two of them.
Those.
Easy. Very cool. Very cool. You need to have ways to be able to grab these equipments whenever the most appropriate time is to have them. Like if you need the evasion ones or you need the power and toughness ones. And the deck as a whole, right out of the box, does not have a ton of means to be able, like, obviously there's the card draw, but there's like next to nothing as far as the tutoring out a good equipment is concerned. So I'd recommend you throw in here a nice dinky little one. Of my favorites is Open the Armory for when you don't want to play game changer cards like Enlightened Tutor. And such. Open the Armory, 1 and a white for a sorcery, searches your library for an aura or equipment card, reveals it, put in your hand, then shuffle.
Can't be mad.
Yep. If you have the budget for it, Steel Shaper's Gift is also another popular choice as well. It's 1 mana cheaper and just goes and gets an equipment exclusively, but that one costs a little bit more as far as dollar amount is concerned. But I like Open the Armory because of its flexibility of also being able to grab an aura if need be. There's not a ton of that in this deck, but you could adjust that.
There's none.
If need be. There is none, yeah. And auras are just as viable to be able to get those power toughness boosts going up. So if you want to turn this into a combination, like kind of what the Fallout deck for Dogmeat was sort of like, that one was trying to do a blend of both equipment and auras. You could absolutely turn Cloud into a deck that does that as well.
Tifa would be really good in that spot. I think Cloud is better with just equipment because he cares about drawing cards from equipped creatures. But to your point, Tifa is banging with auras. Mm-hmm.
The last new card that I would want to add into this deck in here is another legendary creature to help give just a general purpose boost to your creatures that want to be its power 7 or greater. And that's our fun little D&D friend here called Brunor Battlehammer.
Yeah, dude, Brunor.
2 red and a white legendary dwarf warriors, a 5/3. Each creature you control gets +2/+0 for each equipment attached to it, and you can pay 0 rather than pay the equip cost of the first equip ability you activate each turn. So
it's like a little mini Sir Gwyn.
Yep. Kind of, where this one will track the amount of individual equipments you have on one single creature. So really all it takes with Cloud then at that point is just a single equipment that's giving +2, then his ability, Brunor's, gets an additional +2 for that equipment that is attached onto him. Now just off of one single equip cost, of which that you could equip for free if Brunor's the first, if you drop him down as well. Plus on top of the one that Cloud auto attaches to himself, you know, like this combination of stuff is that you could get him up to that 7 power on the turn you play him. And that's going to definitely be one of the goals when playing this deck, is you're going to want to not necessarily right on curve when you have the mana to play Cloud. You're going to want to wait to make sure that you've got the board set up to have exactly that combination of cards, both equipment and other power boosters, to make sure that his power is 7 or greater the moment you're ready to start going in for combat damage.
Yeah. Boy, that haste on Cloud really makes him playable.
It's stupid. It's very, very cool, right? Like,
if you had to play him and then wait a turn to come back around, this would be an unplayable card.
Right, because like you had mentioned as well, what's one of the biggest deterrents, especially when it comes to a Voltron or equipment style matters deck, is you get all these things slapped onto a creature and then a board wipe happens. You got to get your commander back down, and then all that equip cost has to go back over to that commander again. With something like Cloud, he's got haste, ready to go to combat the moment you recast him, and he'll bring over to himself the strongest thing you already have down in play. He could be coming back down on haste after a like a board wipe and just be ready to start swinging again. This deck, more than any of them that we have here tonight, this is going to be the one that you would have to watch out for as far as dying to commander damage is going to be 100%. Concerned. You will die to commander damage with this deck, and I'm a big fan of it. I wouldn't call it my favorite of the collections of here. Unironically, I probably would give this a 7 out of 10. Genuinely, like, it's the
16?
joke. But I mean, yeah, like, these types of decks that want you to have both creatures and equipments, they can be a little tough as far as the balancing act is concerned of how much of one part do you play over the other. And you can also still just get stonewalled in a deck like this as well. You could have all your creatures and no equipment and whatever. These things happen. This is all natural when it comes to playing the game. But if you get your pieces lined up in such a way, Cloud is going to absolutely be smashing in for combat damage anytime you're ready to limit break him to the limit with breaking the face with the face breaker and